Quick one before we start. If you're a birth worker and you don't know what your next steps in your business are, whether you're just getting started or you've been at this a while, I've made a free quiz for you. It shows you what stage your birth biz is actually at and what to focus on next, without any generic advice. It'll only take you a minute to complete, and the link is in the show notes. Right, let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Pregnancy and Postnatal Entrepreneurs Collective podcast in conjunction with Your Birth Biz. I'm your host Niamh Cassidy, lactation consultant, antenatal educator and business coach and mentor to birth and postpartum workers. If you spend any time on business Instagram or TikTok right now or over the last few months, I'm sure you've seen a load of posts and reels about business advice, what works in 2026 or what doesn't work in 2026. But as I'm watching this, what I'm seeing is that a lot of this advice is coming from people who are selling to other coaches or other creators or influencers. They're not people who work in healthcare adjacent professions like birth work. So they're not people who understand the nuances of the work that we do. And the reality is that some strategies that grow quickly online can actually damage credibility for doulas, lactation consultants, antenatal educators, and other birth professionals. So today I want to talk about 3 pieces of business advice that I am seeing everywhere right now and why I think as birth workers we should be cautious about them. I'd love to know if you are seeing or hearing the same thing as well and what you think. So the first one that I want to cover is this idea to stop posting educational content. I am seeing this one everywhere. Loads and loads of reels and different posts about, educational content doesn't grow anymore. People can get education on ChatGPT, so they're not interested in you teaching them about this. Educational content doesn't get you clients. Educational content doesn't get you customers. I'm seeing loads of this now. And instead, people are advocating that you do other types of content and don't ever do educational content because that doesn't grow your business in any way. And instead, they might be saying to be posting entertaining content or worse still, controversial content. And there is reason behind this. It's not completely off the wall. Algorithms often favor entertainment, personality, and drama. And drama can definitely bring people to an account. But the reality is for us as birth workers, we don't want to be creating more drama in the world. There's enough out there. Pregnant people don't need more drama. And I love educational content for birth workers, and it works really well for me and for my clients as well. Because what it does is that it builds trust, it builds authority, and it builds credibility. But here's the bit that's brilliant. It's because parents and expectant parents, they are dying to learn more about everything, about breastfeeding, about birth, about newborn care, about evidence-based guidelines, about what happens in the hospitals, about what happens at home, how to look after a baby. Like, this is exactly what they're on Instagram and TikTok looking for, is educational content. Because when we're pregnant, we want to learn everything. We're so excited. We're really interested. We've never done it before. So we want to learn everything. So educational content is really, really good for the industry we work in because people save it, they share it with their partner, and then they remember that it was you that taught them about this topic. So when someone's like anxious about their upcoming birth or they're awake at night breastfeeding their baby and they're having all these thoughts going ahead, they're not looking just to be entertained. They're looking for people that they can trust, people who can hold their hand and guide them on a journey. And educational content does really help with that. But it doesn't mean that it has to be boring. It doesn't mean that it has to be, lecturing people on what they should and shouldn't do. It can still be story-led, it can still be simple, it can still be relatable. And it should be all of those things. And sometimes I find that people feel really stuck with content because they're trying to follow this advice meant for influencers or coaches, rather than advice that is specific to you in your birth work business and the stage that you're at. And that's one of the reasons why I created the Birth Biz quiz, because it helps you figure out what will actually work in a birth business and for the stage you are at, rather than copying random strategies online that have nothing to do with birth work or have no understanding of expectant and new parents as an ideal client. So the second piece of advice that I'm seeing everywhere that's doing my head in a little bit is all of this about the custom AI tool. So the custom ChatGPT or the custom bot, whatever people are calling them. So every business owner now has created like a version of themselves in a chatbot or a AI tool. And what they're saying is you can get my advice just like I would give it to you from this custom AI, and you should create a custom AI for your clients as well. And then there's loads of promises about how AI can do this for you and AI can do that for you, and it's going to do all your strategy, it's going to do all of your content, you're not going to have to do anything. But in reality, we have to remember that AI is just a tool, and when you use somebody else's custom AI, you're outsourcing your voice to someone else, and your own content can then start sounding like that other person rather than you. But also, everything that you post becomes generic and the same as everybody else's, and all the levels of nuance and your personality and what exactly is important for you disappear. And for us as birth workers, trust is a really important thing. And we need to kind of push back against this idea that AI is the be all and end all of everything. Because if you actually try and ask ChatGPT or any of the tools really simple parenting questions, but with like a slight challenge in them, the answers it can give is ridiculous. So parents are starting to see this now, and we also need to remind them as well. And what they want is they want to be able to get real information and advice from you, from a real lactation consultant or a real doula, from someone who has actually worked with families, has actually supported families and understands the nuance of situations and understands what questions to ask to get the right information to be able to give a proper answer. So I'm not saying to like not use AI at all, but this idea of all of these custom AIs being, the next best thing to actually even working with a real coach is just, it's like telling a parent to go to ChatGPT to get advice on breastfeeding when they've got cracked bleeding nipples and there's a whole load of things going on for them, rather than telling them to go and see a lactation consultant. So don't outsource your own business and mind to AI or somebody else's custom AI because they said it's trained to be just like them. It can't. It doesn't have the capabilities to really get that level of nuance that you get in a two-way conversation with a human being. So use it as a tool. So some of the things that I use AI for now in my business is I will, if a new research article comes out, I will ask it to summarize it for me in plain English. So I do that sometimes. If there's any points that I think are a bit funny, I'll go directly back into the research article and check them out just to make sure they are there. I get it to help me put formatting on things. So if I'm writing a blog, sometimes I don't have the attention span to sit down and actually type it up. So I will talk out the blog into AI and then ask it to format it for me. So put it in paragraphs, put in the full stops, all that kind of thing. Then I'm going to read it again and make sure that it's still my words. But I do tell it that as well. I say, don't change the words or the way it flows, just format it. So that means that it doesn't try to make it better, because I don't want it to be better. I want it to be me. Or I don't want it to be what AI thinks is better. I want it to be me. So you can use it for tools like that. I might use it to help me plan something out. So if I'm going to be doing like a launch in this amount of weeks, I'm like, give me a timeline of what I need to get done in the meantime. So I might use it like that. But I don't outsource my brain to it. I rarely use it to write captions anymore. I rarely use it to write emails anymore. And people want authenticity. I do use it for podcast outlines. So again, I'll do the same thing. I'll talk into it and I'll say, this is my idea for the podcast. These are the things I want to cover. Can you put that into a outline for me? And then it helps me framed outline in a way so that it flows well, so that it makes sense that way. Now, obviously, you can hear me talking, then I still go in and waffle around the topic, but it does help put a little bit of structure on things for me like that. So just don't let it take over your professional judgment, your voice, your lived experiences, your client's lived experience. Use it as a tool, not as a business coach, not as a healthcare advisor, not as you. Don't let it be your voice. Use your own, because that's much better. So then the third thing, and after I do the third thing, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we should do instead, because that would make way more sense. So the third thing that I see everywhere, and this is probably the most upsetting for me, it's this idea that you have to be controversial, that you have to be loud, that you have to be brash, that you have to be shocking, that you have to be something, being told to kind of say things nobody else will say, bring in a debate for engagement. Polarizing content grows the fastest. And, I've just watched The Manosphere with Louis Theroux, and in a terrible way, I wasn't really all that shocked at any of it, to be honest. But what was interesting to me was how I don't even know what they're called. What are these men called? I don't know, influencers, I'll call them. How these influencers openly talked about saying controversial things simply for the clicks, and this idea of, I think they called it clip farming. So they'll just rant off a whole bunch of stuff, and then someone will chop that up into basically these controversial clips that will get them more views and all that kind of stuff. So does it work? Yes. But is it what we want to do in our businesses? I don't think so. And I am seeing a lot more of it in birth work, and I've talked about it before, but it's not for me. I'm not saying that I don't have any controversial thoughts and that I never share them. I do. But doing it on purpose just for clicks, yeah, it's just not for me. And I don't think it helps you as a birth worker. I don't think it's a good idea for your brand, for your business, because our work is trust based. We need our clients and our followers and people who look up to us to trust what we say, to be able to feel safe in what we say, to feel supported in what we say. There's enough, as I said earlier, there's enough drama out there, and we don't need to be building into the anxieties of pregnant or postnatal people. They have enough of that already. And I also really think that it could alienate potential clients rather than bring them in. So while the clip might get views, a controversial clip might get views, it doesn't mean that those people are going to want to work with that person. Then there's going to be a small number, you know what I mean? You will get people very aligned with you if you're being controversial with honesty rather than just for the sake of it. You will find that there are people who are drawn to you specifically for that, and that's okay. But you'll also find that there's lots of people that you might have liked to work with who will think that it's too much. And I don't mean you being too much, so I don't mean don't share your personality, I don't mean don't be yourself, but being controversial for clicks, it really damages our reputation on a whole. I believe it's already a challenge working within our structured healthcare systems where many public healthcare people feel that birth workers are reckless or just completely think they're just wishy-washy, they're just hippies, that type of thing. So I don't think it does the profession any favours, and I don't think it does ourselves as individuals any favours if we're following advice to be controversial for the sake of it, which there is a lot of that advice out there right now. And in birth work, our credibility compounds slowly, and one viral post that gets loads of views isn't worth undermining the time you've spent building trust with people. And a lot of the pressure to post controversial content comes from feeling like we have to do something dramatic to grow because people keep telling we do. But often what's missing in people's growth in their strategy, it's not controversy, it's just a lack of clarity about what strategy fits your life and fits the stage of business that you're at. And the Birth Bridge quiz is one of those things that helps people figure that out. So what if, we've talked a lot there about what doesn't work in 2026, or what I feel we shouldn't be doing as professionals, or advice that we shouldn't be following that's really out there. So what should we do? And for me, there's just kind of some principles to remember. And one is that trust grows our businesses. So people being able to trust us, being able to relate to us, is why clients choose to work with us, because they feel safe with us when they see information that aligns with what they believe to be true, or what is true, that's evidence-based, and it helps people feel safe. Then the second thing I think is that consistency is better than going viral, or better than cleverness. So rather than focusing so much on trying to get the best hook and all that kind of stuff, and then only posting 3 times a month, a bit of consistency around our messaging, around providing useful content, and showing up regularly. So having that level of visibility that, we're always there. You're always there if somebody needs you. You're there to help out, to provide information in a reassuring tone. And then also trying not to follow advice. What we've talked about here already is not following advice that is made for other niches, other types of businesses. Okay, so that's one thing. The other one is following advice that is made for people at a different stage in their business to you. So when I'm working with people who they're brand new to social media, or they're really nervous about being on camera, we're just going to focus on getting a bit of consistency up first. I'm not going to give them the strategy around how to make the posts really engaging, hooky, all of that kind of stuff straight away, because I just want people to start posting. So we start with that. We start with getting used to using the tools. We start with getting a bit of consistency and that type of thing. And then once that level of skill is mastered, then we can move on to the next level of skill around, if we're talking about social media, bringing in more video, making things visually better, better hooks, better captions, all that kind of thing. But we don't want to be trying to learn everything all at the same time. So like the advice and support that somebody needs when they're already up and running, when they already are kind of okay with social media, when they already have some level of visibility, they're already getting some clients, versus someone who hasn't had a client yet and doesn't even really use social media for personal use. The support and advice and information that those two people need is completely different. So when we're just following what we see on the internet, not taking into account what stage of business that we're at, no wonder people are getting burnt out and exhausted and overwhelmed, because you're trying to do all of these things, but you haven't got to that point yet. And when I work with people, I'm taking them where they're at. And even in the quiz, what the quiz does is it gets you to answer a small few questions so that it can figure out what stage you're at, and just give you 3 simple things that you can do now that's going to suit the stage that you're at, rather than trying to give you these advanced strategies that just you're not ready for yet and aren't going to work for you yet, because you're going to get totally and utterly overwhelmed. Now, there's nothing wrong with experimenting and trying new things that you see, or evolving your marketing. It should happen, but we have to remember that birthwork is a trust-based profession, and the goal isn't just growing. It's being able to serve the families that we want to serve. It's about being able to keep up with the workload ourselves so our own families don't get left behind. And it is that ethical, consistent growth that attracts the right families to you. So what we're not doing in 2026 is we're not ditching educational content. Educational content for the win for me. We're not falling for the custom AIs that they can actually replace proper coaching, or that they can replace, or that they should replace your voice. We're not doing that. And we're not going to be controversial for clicks. What we are going to do is we're going to bring our personalities forward. We're going to build in a bit of consistency around our visibility. We're going to continue to teach and give people education on the subjects that they're looking for. And we're going to try and make sure that the advice that we're following is right for birth work specifically, and also for the stage business that we are at. I love hearing about any like light bulb moments or ahas or just anything that you found interesting in the podcast. So always feel free to send me a DM via text or voice notes. I love an voice note. And do me a favor, and wherever you are listening to this, please make sure you are subscribed or following, and I would love for you to leave me a review as well, because it just really helps other people find the podcast too. Thanks again. See you next week. Bye. Before you go, if anything in today's episode had you nodding along or thinking, yeah, that's me, don't leave it there. My free quiz helps you see what stage your birth biz is actually at and what's worth your energy right now, so you're not second guessing every decision or following advice that doesn't fit. It'll only take you a minute to complete, so click the link in the show notes and find out your birth biz stage and what your best next steps are.